We are here with Kevin Kearney, a staff writer for WhistleOut, one of my lovely coworkers. And Kevin, you have been looking into and researching a lot about this new FCC law and these nutrition labels. So, can you give me a quick overview on what this new requirement is?
Sure. So the nutrition labels, in short, are there for transparency. So these were mandated in President Biden's 2021 Infrastructure Act. And in short, what they do is try and create a level playing field for internet service providers so that consumers, when they're looking to purchase a new plan, know exactly what they're getting. And so that hopefully they can navigate through all the kind of sales copy and all the sort of fluffy language that a lot of times these plans are sort of mired in. And the hope
Right.
is that this change in policy allows consumers to have more working knowledge of what their internet plans actually offer and hopefully allow them to get better service overall.
Right. Because what we see these days before this requirement is the potential best speeds that rarely were achieved. So
Mhm.
hopefully this will help people see what they actually are going to get and not the best case scenario. Because as we know, the best case scenario rarely is consistent.
Yeah, the language that's used is typical. So that means that, at least in theory, the ISPs have to let you know what their plans actually provide rather than the potential of what it could provide on the best possible day in the best possible location.
And you did the heavy lifting here of reading every single page of this FCC document.
Yeah.
And although in theory this is a nice idea, there are a lot of like missing pieces to this puzzle, like enforcement being one of them.
Exactly. That's, I think, the biggest concern. So, like I mentioned, it's typical speeds. That's what the law is requiring. But how that's going to be enforced, how that's going to be audited right now is a little bit of a question mark. And what the FCC has said so far is that they're not going to do the auditing themselves unless complaints are lodged against a certain internet provider. I think there are ways around
Right.
it, and I hope that in the future, the FCC is going to roll out uh, more requirements and audits. But as it stands right now, the first wave of nutrition labels is sort of based on the honor code.
Interesting. Are there any other pitfalls or parts of this new requirement that you kind of are like raising an eyebrow at?
Yeah, there's a little bit of concern that I have about how these are actually going to look in practice. Google Fiber rolled out sort of like the earliest nutrition labels that we saw back in October. And I think they were doing it to sort of set a standard, which I think is noble. I just worry that the standard that they've set is maybe not that different from what already exists in the internet market. A lot of their label was really just sales copy. They were
Mm,
saying things like no nonsense pricing, which sounds really good, but isn't helpful. Doesn't really tell
yeah.
us
What
anything
is
to know.
what does that even mean?
Right.
No.
I don't know if anyone is advertising nonsense pricing. I don't think so. So I don't know how this really shakes out in actual practice.
So we've seen the no nonsense pricing promise from Google Fiber. Are there any other overall critiques or ways that you think this new initiative could be just a little bit better?
So we're starting to see the bigger ISPs release their nutrition labels. That was required by April 10th. And you'll start to see it for smaller ISPs in the fall. They're required for if they have under 100,000 users by mid-October. And what we're seeing from some of the bigger providers is what I feared, which is that they're doing everything that's required of them. They're not skirting the mandate in any way, but that what they're presenting, at least from my perspective, is not that much more insightful than what already existed. So, Verizon Fios, for example, I've got it pulled up right now. I'm looking at it. Everything that is there is by the letter of the law. And yet there's still a lot of language that I think is a little bit inside baseball. It's talking about typical download speed, typical upload speed, typical latency, and then providing all the megabits per second. And again, it's down to decimal points. I'm inclined to believe that these are indeed the typical speeds. But I would imagine for the typical internet user who's just shopping for a plan, looking for a good value, and hoping that they don't get ripped off, I would imagine that a lot of this is somewhat meaningless, that without proper context, these speeds, these numbers really are just kind of hard to swallow. And it's unclear whether one is better than the next. And so I think what's really necessary is more context. I think more education around broadband literacy. And I think that one of the upsides is a site like WhistleOut is able to provide some of that. So we actually broke down what each of these terms means in practical terms so that you can use it as sort of a glossary as you're looking and comparing these different broadband facts.
And I think one thing that the internet service providers lean on is that lack of education because they're
Yeah.
like, well, we just need to do what we have been told to do, and it's the consumer's issue, which I mean, technically it is, but it does put a lot of the heavy lifting on to the internet user or the person searching for a new plan.
Right. And I think sometimes too, and in the past, I've been guilty of this as much as anyone else, is you see the numbers and you assume that the bigger number must be the better plan.
Mm.
And that that may technically be true, but in actuality, what you actually need might be different from what someone else needs. And just getting the most amount of data or the fastest speeds is not necessarily the best value for you as an individual.
I think in theory, this is a nice idea that was required. The label is a little bit insane to me. Why are we using food labels for internet? I think someone could have put a little bit more work and energy into creating a template that made a bit more sense, but maybe we may see this evolve. As it stands, I don't love it. How about you?
Yeah, I'm hoping that this is just the first step and that as soon as this becomes standardized and normalized, that it gets improved upon and is just overall more helpful for consumers.
And again, if you are curious about learning more information on this nutrition label or how to find the right internet plan for your cell phone plan, we have so many guides breaking this down on our website. I'll link that in the description. This again was Kevin Kearney, a staff writer for WhistleOut. He specializes in Canadian internet plans, but is very knowledgeable on the American side of plans as well. Thanks for talking with me and being our go-to expert on this matter. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Sherry.